but I guess I'll fill in a few of the gaps here for what I do on a day-to-day basis. I'd say it starts with a lot of naps, a few cups of coffee here. Oh, man, I wish. All right, everybody. Well, it's been a little while since the last Labor Thoughts podcast, and as you can tell, we got a slightly different cast of characters here with us today. And I figured what better way than to bring the podcast back than to bring the whole labor relations team on, do an introduction of everybody, talk about what we do on a daily basis, and also talk about what we plan to do. So why don't we just kick off with some introductions? So I'm going to kind of go in the order that I have on my screen. Jeff, tell us a little bit about your title, yourself here, and then we'll get into your history and stuff in a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. Good to be back on Labor Thoughts. I'm the Senior Vice President of Labor Relations and Risk Management here at NECA. I'm also our General Counsel. So as a Senior Vice President, I'm on the Senior Leadership Team, so work on leadership issues and strategic planning for the organization. I also run this labor team and our safety team, and then safety and codes and standards form sort of a risk management division at NECA, and we take care of that as well. And as general counsel, obviously, I'm the lawyer for the association, so I handle risk and liability and manage those issues as well.
All right, Jeff, I appreciate that. Let's keep things moving. Who do I want to call on? How about John? Tell us about yourself.
All right. Morning, everybody. Thanks, Ryan, for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it. My name is Jonathan Mandel. I am the Director of Labor Relations. I'm the newest member on the team. I'm also the Director of the NLMCC National Labor Management Cooperation Committee.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Oh, now, depending on who I pick here is who's either going to be upset with me because they got to go last or who's going to be upset because they're going next. But I got Steve on his back foot. So Steve, go for it.
Thanks, Ryan. Great to be on the podcast. My name is Steve Krieg. I am the Vice President of Field Labor Relations and Services. My day-to-day operations deal with the field staff, regional directors, and the field reps, and working with Jeff and the Labor Relations team, you all, on labor issues. I'm also a trustee on CIR and a trustee on the NLMCC.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Now, Ian, hopefully you're not too sour about it, but last but certainly not least, go for it, man.
Well, hey, Ryan, thanks for having me on, and I'm not last because you'll still need to introduce yourself. So, nice try, but I'm not that salty.
I did the typical forget to include myself, right?
It's okay. We still all know you're here. But my name is Ian Andrews. I'm NECA's Executive Director of Field and Industrial Labor Relations. My core duties are Secretary and a Trustee with the Electrical Training Alliance. I'm the Secretary for NECA's Workforce Development Committee. I'm involved with the Council on Industrial Relations, better known as CIR, as a functionary and alternate panel member. I've been learning through Steve, the Jurisdictional Disputes Board. I'm a member of NECA's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Task Force. This last year, I've been more involved with Women NECA Future Leaders, and then long-term, been helping NECA's peer group efforts and helping NECA members and NECA staff in get into peer groups, for lack of a better term.
Well, I guess as Ian so astutely pointed out, I did forget that I do have to introduce myself. I'm Ryan Courtney. I'm NECA's Executive Director of National Labor Relations. As you heard from Steve and Ian, I'm also involved on the council, CIR. I've served as a functionary, and also I serve as an alternate panel member, so there's a lot of fun stuff that goes in with that. I am also the secretary for District 10, so I'm constantly involved in our outside line side of NECA and all the issues that go on there. I'm a trustee on the Family Medical Care Plan, so I get to oversee everything with our National Health Insurance Plan. I serve as an assistant to David Long, who is a trustee on the NEBF, so I'm very much involved in NEBF and NEEP and all of the announcements and everything that come out from that. think I've hit most of my functions there. I'm sure, like all you guys, we're all forgetting something that we do on a daily basis, but there'll be time to talk about that in a minute. But since we've all introduced ourselves, maybe it's now time to talk about how we got here. We all find ourselves in this great career working for NECA, but that's not where we started. We all had a life before we put on these snazzy shirts and had these logos to carry around with us. So that Ian doesn't get upset with me for making him second to last. Ian, how'd you get here?
Well, thanks, Ryan. If you're not first, you are last in this case. It's an honor to be first. To be honest, there was no life before NECA. I was fortunate enough to start the Monday after graduating college, and there is not an illustrious career path to point to otherwise. I was actually driving to an interview through a hiring agency to another job, and they called and said, hey, we filled that, but we have this place called NECA that might be a fit for you. And I was able to meet at the Illinois chapter, and fortunate enough that they were able to hire me sight unseen after that interview. So very grateful for that entryway. Spent 5 years there in an NEBF coordinator role and the assistant manager role before coming onto the field staff under Steve Krieg back in 2017. And after 5 years in the rep role, moved into the Midwest region director role for a little under 2 years before Jeff brought me on to the labor relations team. So I've been very grateful for these opportunities, and that's kind of my long and my short story. I wish it was more exciting, but it's really just been a great run so far.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, Ian. Thanks for letting us know how you got here. Jeff, what's your story?
So I did have a long life before NECA. I'm a 30-plus year labor and employment and litigation attorney. That's the best way to describe it. So from a practice subject matter area, I've always gravitated towards labor, traditional labor, and employment law. And that, as you well know, that lends itself to a lot of litigation. So tended to be in court most of my career. So my day-to-day was governed by the court schedule. So motions, depositions, trials, settlement, arbitrations, all of that kind of board hearings at the NLRB, all of that kind of good stuff. And at one point, I did some outside counsel work for NECA and David Long, and started to present to district councils on labor trends and labor issues, and handled a couple of other outside matters or matters as outside counsel for NECA. And then I got called to a lunch with David, and he and I were talking about the next few things he wanted me to do. And the conversation gravitated toward, I can't believe that NECA doesn't have a general counsel or an in-house lawyer. And David said, would you be interested in that? And I said, depends on what it would look like. And one thing led to another. And at the end of that day, I had a job offer with NECA, and I talked it over with my wife, and we decided that letting the court dictate my calendar and my schedule, and just the rapid pace of litigation was something that I was happy to leave behind, as long as I could continue to do what I like to do, which was, labor law and acting as in being a lawyer in an in-house capacity. So, I'm very glad that I'm here. I think that my background lends itself toward what we do. And I approach things from, I think, a little bit different perspective than some folks do, as lawyers tend to. And, it's been a good 4.5 years that I've been here. So I'm super pleased with where I am in the organization and what this place, has meant to me already.
Awesome. I can definitely say when I found out that NECA was getting a general counsel, my first comment back was, so I can actually ask him questions and not get billed by the hour? This is going to be awesome. So that was a lot of fun, and it has been to this day. So thank you, Jeff. Steve, what were you doing before you were here?
Well, let's see. I started my career off in the electrical apprenticeship. I went through a 5-year apprenticeship in South Bend, Indiana. And once I graduated, topped out, worked out in the field for a couple of years, and then moved into the office of a contractor that I started my apprenticeship with. And we started a division on low voltage. And most of this division was being done by journeyman wiremen. And so we got into that segment of the market. And that led me to still continue to teach out at the local JATC in South Bend on low voltage upgrade classes to journeyman wiremen. And one day I got a call from A.J. Pearson from the National Joint Apprenticeship and Training Committee, now referred to as the ETA. And he was looking for someone to develop some curriculum on installer technician for the low voltage market. And interviewed with that. Spent 5 years with the NJTC developing that 3-year curriculum. And I knew about NECA. I worked with some of the field reps from NECA as a employee of the NJTC, developing estimating classes for the low voltage side. And they said, "Hey, we got an opening here in the Midwest for a field rep." So I was able to come back and interview with Rich Perenni, and that was back in 1999, and was able to go from field rep to regional director and come up to the labor relations team as a vice president.
Awesome. It's always been a lot of fun and very rewarding working with you and the different roles that you've had in NECA. And your field experience has just always been invaluable. It's been great to be able to lean on you in that way. I mean, obviously you're very experienced within NECA itself, but having kind of both sides of the coin is just icing on the cake, if you will.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that.
Yeah. John, what about you, man?
Yeah, so I had what I like to think of as less than an exciting start to my working career. Right out of college, for about 2 weeks, I was enamored with the world of marketing and worked for a mega corporation called Publicis before realizing that marketing's not for me. So I switched career fields to the finance industry and worked for Morgan Stanley for about 2 years. Started off in their financial planning and analysis division, and then moved to their corporate retirement sales, where we did something pretty interesting called a Monte Carlo simulation analysis. And it's a fancy way of saying we put your information into a computer, and the computer does the analysis for us and tells you when you can retire. So I was essentially a glorified help desk, hated that job, and had a good friend in the industry who's actually now a chapter manager in Central Ohio, where I previously was. He was changing his location, changing his career, and we met up in New York City. He talked about all the great things that NECA did for him in his career, getting started. And I said, that sounds pretty interesting. I'd love to, pass my resume along if you can. So he did. And so I was able to start as a staff associate based out of the New York City office. I was there for a little bit less than a year, moved to Central Ohio, where I was the assistant chapter manager for a year and a half under a gentleman named Brian DeMant, who, if anybody knows that name, knows that he's a living legend. Was his assistant for a year and a half, and then took over the chapter for about 3.5 years. My first day on the job was pretty exciting. Loved the job. And then about 2 months later, COVID hit. So it was a great introduction to life as a chapter manager. And then after 3.5 years, I was lucky enough to join the national staff as a field rep out of the Eastern region, serviced most of the state of Ohio and the entire state of Pennsylvania. And then January 1 of this year, I joined the labor relations team. So a little bit of a rocky start to my working career, but what I'll call a meteoric rise to the labor relations team. So that's my story.
Well, and you've been doing amazing on the team. You I can't even speak. The perspective you bring on a lot of different issues and calls, it's always just really good. You seem to be able to kind of come from a different angle on a lot of things. So I've always appreciated that when you're weighing in.
Thank you.
So I guess that just leaves me. I went to school for computer engineering, and as you can see, I'm using that very heavily in this career. It does great for podcasting. it is interesting. I did do a lot of classes in computer code, and everybody wonders, like, how is that useful at all? And it does give me a unique way of looking at contract language and approaching problems, because we're taught in coding to break things down to the simplest level to be able to literally get to yes and no answers. So being able to dissect language like that and craft language that way is it's been weirdly applicable. So yeah, did my formal education in computer engineering, went out, got into an industrial engineering position for Intralocks, a company in Harahan, Louisiana. While working there and enjoying the hour and a half commute across the causeway, Jeff is probably familiar with that with his education. I had the opportunity to interview for a staff associate position within NECA. Spent about 7 months doing that, came on as the chapter manager for the Kansas chapter, did that for almost 5 years, and then had the opportunity to come on as the director of labor relations. Gary Higgins actually brought me on and attached me at the hip to Chuck Kelly and said to download all the information from his head. But I don't think there's enough computers in the world to be able to hold that. But I did my best working with him. And then as the department grew and changed, everybody started coming on. We had our CEO changeover, going to working for David. And so that was always an interesting thing, going from one CEO to another and seeing how the association evolved under their leadership, and the differences in how we approach problems and everything like that. So that was a lot of fun. During that time, I had the opportunity to join the Southeastern Line chapter for a little while. Got a very, very quick introduction to the way the outside line industry operates, which is serving me well in my current role here as the Executive Director of National Labor Relations, especially being the Secretary to District 10 and having that insight into the way they do things and the way their industry operates has been incredibly beneficial. So now everybody listening knows our full stories. I guess I'll go around. I guess the last thing we need is you need to get the last four of your socials, the street you go. Oh, no, sorry. Different podcast. We'll go there later. Let's talk about our daily lives in NECA. I mean, obviously, as you can see, we all work remotely, and there are plenty of opportunities and positives from having that, and then there's plenty of challenges that we have to overcome as well. And I do think, just me speaking personally as a team, we do a very good job of staying connected, keeping issues flowing, keeping everybody in the loop. So we'll talk a little bit about that. You'll probably hear from each person as they talk about their daily life in NECA. But I'm going to be quiet right now and let John speak to, what do you do on a day-to-day for NECA, John?
That's a great question. I wish I knew. No, a lot of what I do, and it's hard to describe a single day in the life type situation, but a lot of what I do is handle a lot of the issues and requests for NLMCC, the National Labor Management Cooperation Committee. So we're in pretty constant communication with the trustees at the NLMCC. Steve is one of them, and I'm sure he'll talk a little bit about that from his perspective. And we have some administrators on our team, some of our partners at the IBEW that I work closely with. We review things like what trade shows that the NLMCC is going to attend, making sure that there's a presence at those trade shows that we choose to advertise at. I coordinate with our consultant for the NLMCC, handle audit work. We just got done with an audit and passed with flying colors, thank God, as always. Handle a lot of the grant requests that come in. Chapters and locals can partner together and write in requests to the NLMCC for different funding mechanisms for a partnering program with Dr. Richard Barnes. They can request monies for recruitment funds. They can request monies for job fairs and things like that. So we do all the legwork behind that, making sure that the monies get sent at an appropriate time, follow up on the success of those programs. So it's pretty involved from that perspective. Also work on a lot of the resources that some of the chapters might see and some of the members. So I like to work on a lot of the labor relations alerts and the labor relations best practices. One that I'm particularly proud of is the Collier decision and deferral ones, as well as the Portal to Portal Act. I was the one who started those with the team all getting involved, all giving feedback, and all giving input to those. But those are the main things that I'm involved in on a day-to-day basis. And then periodically we get calls from chapters asking for assistance on issues they need guidance on. Hey, I have this going on with this particular contractor and business manager. Here's an issue. Give me your perspective. How do I handle a situation like this? So those are typically one-offs, but those are some of the things that we get involved in periodically. And that's kind of a life in John Mandel's life. So
Awesome. John is being a little modest on those alerts, particularly the two he pointed out, the Collier and the portal to portal. Knocked it out of the park would be an understatement for what he did with those. I've been working, especially in the Collier, like doing those deferrals for like advising on that for years. And the research John did to put into that labor alert taught me things that I didn't know. So that's awesome. So don't let him undersell a little bit there. He did an amazing job with those and continues to. So Steve, what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, my day consists of mainly dealing with the field staff. I have a lot of communication with the regional directors on their day-to-days and how things are going in their regions, and also reaching out and dealing with the field reps on labor relation issues. Kind of like the buffer between our field staff and the labor relations team, working with the labor relations team, bringing these issues up. One thing we want to make sure out in the field that we exercise, that we're the field reps are dealing with the chapter executives, and the field rep is also communicating with their international IBW rep, and making sure that once we have an issue that we try to resolve them out there locally between the parties, and if they can't get handled locally, that we try to then handle it between the regional director and their international vice president from that region, and have communications there. Again, a lot of those come up our way and then get handed off to us here at the labor relations team to dive into. And it's really great to hand those off to all of us here and be able to go through those labor relations issues and discuss them and come up with an answer for either the regional director or the field team or a chapter executive. I also deal with CIR, working with Ryan and Ian and John on, it seems like we finish one session and within a week we're talking about the next session coming up, and panel members, and also just what cases might be potentially coming out. John mentioned the NLMCC. Hey, John does the workload on the NLMCC. He just, when it comes to me to look at these requests for partnering or job fairs or requests for monies from the NLMCC, John has all the information for me to make it easy to say, I approve of it. It's approved. But he does a great job there of deciphering how that information, what's taking place within the NLMCC. And then, just working with all of you, besides the field team, working with you day in and day out on labor relation issues, whatever we might be dealing with, if we have to go back to a regional director or a field rep to get additional information.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Steve talked a lot about the process that we like to try to keep in place with the labor relations team and the field team. And that's something I know, I'm sure Ian or Jeff or somebody will probably touch on it, but I want to make sure it gets highlighted. When you reach out to us, whatever method that happens to be, if for some reason the person you reached out to is not the person that replies to you, that's just our gentle nudge of keeping you within the communication flow that we have established. We like for managers to be able to reach out to their field rep to the regional director to Steve, and then Steve to us. And we're not doing that arbitrarily. We want to make sure everybody is in the loop, because if you leapfrog that process in any way, there's some, like, that field rep or that regional director, number one, may have an answer to your issue, but number two, they need to be involved. They need to know what's going on, because they're gonna get plugged in some way eventually. So leapfrogging that process can just create some inefficiency. So for our managers listening, if you reach out to Ian and then all of a sudden your field rep is the one contacting you, that's just our polite way of reminding you that we have the process and we have it for a reason. We're all here to help you, and I can guarantee that any response you get from any of us has had all of us weigh in some way, shape, or form. So we're always here to help, but we want to make sure we keep it consistent and efficient. Two of my favorite words. But on the consistent and efficiency, I don't really know how this makes a good segue, and segues are weird, but we're just going to jump over to Jeff. What's your daily life look like?
Well, so I can start by saying that there are really kind of four hats that I wear, but they're all sort of intertwined on purpose. The first thing I'll talk about is as being on the leadership team and talking to the other SLT members on a daily basis about the entire association, what's going on, and you know, a lot of time is spent on making sure that I understand what's going on in education, events, partnerships, government affairs, finance, the budget, what David Long is up to, where he is, who he's talking to. You know, we talk about those things. You know, that team concept is at that level as well. And so, you know, a good part of my week is spent talking about the association in general and where we're headed. Are we achieving the strategic plan objectives that the executive committee has signed off on and worked with us on? Are we prepared for the next executive committee meeting? Are we prepared for the Board of Governors meeting? Are there motions that need to be put on? You know, and the like. So, you know, a decent part of my day and a decent part of my week is just sort of general leadership for the association. And I take that very seriously. You know, I think, you know, I run business units here at the association, but I'm also, you know, always try to have my eye on the ball for the association in general. And then I have, you know, my role as general counsel. So on a day-to-day basis, I probably review, you know, 5 or 6 contracts. And when I came on, there was a lot of paper, and we converted what was a very confusing database of contracts that wasn't very intuitive or searchable, at least from my perspective. And we switched over to some software called ContractWorks, and every contract that comes to NECA or goes out from NECA runs through ContractWorks and gets department review, my review for legal form, and then Tracy Walker's review and signature. So, you know, we don't have anything that's coming in or out of the organization that I don't know about, and that our CFO doesn't sign. So I think that that's helped us mitigate risk and control, you know, from a budgetary perspective, control the existing contracts that we have that, you know, maybe should have been sunsetted or terminated. And so, you know, that's a big part of my day. Obviously, any kind of potential liability or risk I'm involved in, our leadership team knows to come to me with questions like that. And I spend a decent amount of time going over, you know, other business units issues, whether I'm looking at, you know, an issue with the audit, or I'm looking at some disagreement or some bad contract language from a hotel. So you know, that's a decent part of my day. And then obviously I'm part of this team, the labor team. That takes up a very good amount of my time. A lot of the issues that come in the door that are on fire tend to be labor issues. And, you know, they could come down from David Long and you know, Kenny Cooper at the national level. They could come sideways from the ETA or FMCP or, I don't know, a data breach of some sort that comes into us. And we have to figure out how we're involved in that. But it is amazing to me, and I guess refreshing to me, because it keeps us hopping, how many issues around the country are labor related. And, if I had to catalog, my day, 50 to 60% of my day would be with this team on labor issues, dealing with day-to-day things, working on national things, and the like. So I also have the safety team, Wes Wheeler and Mike Starner. I used to have codes and standards. Marco took them back, thankfully. But we still operate as a team over there in risk management. We have, much like our biweekly calls for this team, I have biweekly calls with safety and codes and standards. Marco and I jump on those calls, and we try to function as a risk management team together. So Kyle Krieger and Jeff Noren are on those calls for codes and standards. And, those folks just run their shop, and I'm here for them from a leadership perspective. And, but they make that easy on me because they really know what they're doing and they're excellent at what they do. And I think that it's helpful to have me in labor and safety because our two teams mesh a lot. And I think that from, government affairs perspective on safety and labor issues, having us intertwined and weigh in on those issues, because, labor and safety are probably the two at the forefront out in the field. And then Steve does a great job with the field. I feel like I'm in touch with the field, the regional directors and the field reps. We just had a great meeting in Chicago. I felt like there was a lot of good energy there. And it's so important that the field reps feel comfortable calling any one of us on labor issues and then taking that back to the chapter execs to work out things locally. And I think the communication and the trust that we've developed in a very short time frame it has been helpful. So, Steve and I will talk, a couple of times a week about what's going on in the field and how I can help there as well. And so I think that's been a part of my weekly work as well. So those are the things that I have going on. I laugh because, somebody coming on asked me how much vacation time they would get when they started. And I said, I don't even know because we don't really take much vacation time. So it's, I said, I don't know how much I have and I don't know how much you'll get, but if you're working hard, you probably won't use a lot of it, but that's all good because it is rapid, fast, but interesting. And it's just a great place to work.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo that. Jeff's comment about rapid and fast and just it's ever changing. I'd probably say this is the hardest part of the podcast because I'm asking everybody on this call to tell us what you do on a day-to-day basis. And if you were to have to write it down, what we did today is not what we're doing tomorrow, is not what we did yesterday. I mentioned it and it'll come up on another episode, but I always tell people the biggest mistake you can make in this career is to have a to-do list. Just never going to get to it. But it does keep it exciting and keeps it interesting. And another one that Jeff kind of touched on was the team and him running this team and kind of keeping us in line and giving us issues to work through. My comment on that is this team, as you see it on your screen right now, was formed officially January 1. I guess by show of head nods, does it feel like we've only been together 6 months? Exactly. Yeah. More like 6 years probably at this point. So yeah, working very well together. Definitely all staying in touch and what's going on there. I could see Ian staring at the screen right now, wondering if I forgot him, and I didn't. I saved Ian for last because I'm lazy and I don't really feel like talking about what I do. So I'm just going to say whatever it is he does, because I think we probably have the most overlap in what goes on. So I'll just say ditto whenever Ian gets done. So Ian, what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, Ryan, I was going to punt it back to you to make sure you weren't last on this one. So that was a nice workaround. That was a very nice workaround. And for the listeners on the pod and not the screen, we all shook our heads because it does feel like it's been about 6 years. I mean, to put a bow on it without getting overly granular, there's a couple parts that I think will resonate with anybody that's worked for NECA in any capacity. The first is the joy that no days are Groundhog Day. There's just nothing on repeat. You're not living in the same situation, the same scenario. There is enough variety every day to really make it just a really outstanding career. And the other part that would resonate well as we go through what is our day to day, when your friends and family ask, what do you do? What do you do for a living? And you have to kind of take a deep breath and say, well, how much time do you have? Because it's not I do A, I do B, the end of story. And then you try to explain association management and trade associations, and the next question is, so you're the union? No. So you're a union member? No, but they're a partner. And then you have to go in that rabbit hole. It's a lot to unpack. But I mean, on the macro level, we're working as a team to make a positive impact on the industry. We're working as a team to expediently provide information to the field staff, to the chapter staff, and to NECA members. We want them to have education and the right information to make a decision at home to positively impact their life, their situation, their fire, whatever situation they're working through. We're working to really vision and resource and build to reimagine and transform what labor relations looks like tomorrow and into the future for NECA and NECA members. And we said in the field staff meeting in Chicago, whereas our floor today is the lowest we'll ever be because we continue to grow and really just move forward. And as Jeff said, working with the senior leadership team, I think that group's more in sync than it's ever been. It's allowing us to work across departments a lot stronger. The idea that labor relations is a silo is becoming a fallacy. I think we're really connected to other departments, and if you're a part of NECA and you don't feel like you're connected to labor relations, let's talk. Let's find a way to better work, better collaborate. And then a lot of, passion projects on the side is data. We're trying to make, like I said earlier, educated decisions. We're doing mass collection of numerous things between wages, agreements, negotiation tracking. We want to have all the pieces to make a smart choice, not just go off folklore or live in the dark. So it's been a lot of fun working with this team under Jeff's leadership, and he's giving us the leeway to just go build. That's the day-to-day. We're building. We're trying to make things better for our members. We're just trying to go forward.
Well, as promised, ditto. So
Motion passes.
you're right. No, that's great, and I know I say it jokingly, but Ian and I are very much aligned. We have a similar thought process in approaching it, so it's been fantastic working with him, and obviously the rest of the team as well. But Ian and I bounce a lot of stuff off of each other, and we're constantly trying to push certain projects. And he's a little bit of a data nerd, just like me, so that kind of helps advance some of those projects as well. But I guess I'll fill in a few of the gaps here for what I do on a day-to-day basis. I'd say it starts with a lot of naps, a few cups of coffee here. No, man, I wish. The day starts as different as anybody else's does. I will have a plan of, well, I'm going to try to get to these emails from yesterday or these Teams messages I missed, and then you get the phone call and that's it. You're off to the races on that issue. What I can say about how those issues used to come up and be dealt with to how they're dealt with now is daylight and dark. And it's even better whenever there is a legal component to it. I can just text our general counsel who's sitting here and say, hey, I have this specific legal question on it. And then Jeff can fire back, or, I need to know what's going on in the field. Steve, help me here, please. Or, if it's an ETA type deal, Ian, what's going on here? Or I'm going to hand this over to him. You're going to be seeing a lot more great things coming from this team, a lot more resources that'll help you as a chapter manager. It'll help you as a contractor, because that's what we're looking at doing. Labor relations historically has been a response-driven team. We're looking to move that to more of a proactive, where we know issues are going to come up, but we want to be ahead of them as much as possible and help cut them off before they get any bigger. So I did the typical labor relations thing. I don't think I actually answered the question, but I still talked a lot and gave some information. So hopefully our listeners and our viewers will be able to grab a few nuggets from that. In the interest of time, we do need to keep progressing here. We have a few pieces of communication in the background that we use, different forms there. So I'm not asking you guys to spend a lot of time on this, just maybe talk from your perspective, your most used form of communication with the team and how you see that as beneficial for us. Ian, I'll let you kick it off.
Microsoft Teams, beginning, end.
Yeah.
I'll punt the mic back to you. No, really, Teams has been a godsend. Everybody here on this team uses it, no pun intended, and it allows us to communicate in real time. If you're in a meeting, you're with somebody, you're traveling, it's there for you. It's not easy to mark on red as a text or miss as a voicemail that doesn't show up for days later. And it has a great file storage system. This is not a free ad for Microsoft. It's just been a very functional way for us to collaborate.
Yeah. Hashtag not sponsored, right?
Hashtag no free ads.
Yeah.
Unless they want to, right?
Right. Yeah. Microsoft, if you're listening, hit us up. John, what's your what do you think?
I just have to echo what Ian said. Teams. I don't know how many times I can say it. It's super user friendly for us. It's incredibly quick. We all use it, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think we all love it. It gets the job done exactly how we need it to. So I can't say enough good things about Teams and the ease of communication that we all have by using it.
Steve, can you tell us how much you hate Teams?
Well, I was thinking about this, being the old man in this team right here, it was kind of a tough. Being the oldest one, it was kind of tough to get me to. I know you and Ian have worked hard on me, like Teams, Steve, Teams. We're not over in Outlook anymore. But hey, I've adapted to it, and I do. It's a great way to communicate. A great way to communicate with this team, and that's what we're pushing for out in the field, is for our regional directors. I know you and Ian, John are working on that. We're trying to gravitate them and to have our channels with the field staff on Teams. And we'll have everything one sourced right there in Teams then, through labor relations and the field staff. And what not a better way to communicate and be in, like you said, real time. And it allows us to get these allows us to make these decisions and get these decisions back to the parties that need them in a quicker way too.
Yeah, I said it kind of jokingly. Steve did have some struggles first with Teams coming on, but I think he's moved more towards the power user, almost pro user of it now. So yeah, I think it's been a great way to communicate. Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Teams as a channel, as a communication vehicle is great. I will say that for the listeners, we have a particular Teams channel called the Cave, and the five of us are the only ones on the Cave channel. And if I get a text or an email, I'm usually cutting and pasting that and throwing it into the Cave, which means that the five of us can kick that around and chew on it, and whatever we spit out to the end user is something that all five of us touch. And that's important to me because I took over safety and codes and standards first from a leadership perspective, and I think the very first communication I sent out had team capitalized, TEAM capitalized, and that's the same philosophy that I brought to this team, that we do everything as a team. Again, for the benefit of the listeners, if Ryan Courtney attends, a D10 council meeting, he's downloading that information to all of us so that we all know what happened at that meeting. And that's invaluable because, any one of us could get asked a question about what's going on in the different business units that we cover. But I would venture to say that, I would be able to answer it, an ETA question as well as Ian can, because we've already discussed it. And I already know what's going on, at a workforce development meeting or something like that. So, that would give me some comfort if I was a user of our services, from a labor relations team, that you're getting the benefit of all five of us. And that's really how we can, as Ian would say, collaboration is up, response time is down. And that's how we get that done.
Yeah, I didn't really intend for this to turn into a Teams love fest, but it really has been, I guess, revolutionary in how we communicate just as a group. Jeff talked about our cave chat and where it has all of us in it, and it's awesome to be able to just drop in there, hey, update incoming on fill in the blank topic, and we boom, 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 hit the bullet points. Everybody can comment, ask questions as they need to. And the best part about it is it saves a lot of re-asking questions, because Teams has a great search feature in it. So if I remember that Ian posted something in the cave chat last week about a particular topic, but I can't remember the specifics, I just search it and it brings me back to that. I get to read it. I can read everything leading up to it. And that's, one less question I have to ask, one less time I have to interrupt Ian's day to say, hey, can you fill me in on this again? It's already there. It saves a lot of rework. And the other thing I'd point out about it that's really been good is when we used to use email primarily or text message or something like that, Ian touched on a little bit, it's really easy for those to get missed, because the way those communication platforms work, if you don't deal with it in the moment, there's a strong chance you're just not going to get to it. Teams is a great way of like, hey, this is the proper place to drop this, and it's not an on-fire issue. So if I'm in the middle of something, I can read it an hour from now or the next day, depending on when it came in. So for everybody listening that uses it within your organization, we can't recommend it enough. And for our field team that's listening, just know that more to come on that. We're looking at making our entire communications from labor relations and field services be in Teams so that we always have access to all of our knowledge all the time.
Ryan, just to jump in real quick, I want to give a quick shout out to those unnamed regional directors who have started using it. So thank you for embracing it. Please continue to do so.
You know who you are. So. All right. Time to start wrapping this up a little bit, but let's start looking forward for this team. I want to bounce around to each of you and just give me one or two goals. I usually start out by asking you guys, but I'm going to just start with mine and shake things up a little bit here. Ian mentioned a little bit of data, and he's correct. We have so much data in this organization. It's everywhere. And the stuff that we would be able to do with it, if we can get it in one location, would just be amazing. Answering questions that right now take time and take multiple phone calls or multiple touch points to put something together would become trivial. So that's not only my near term, but not only my short term, but also long term goal is I want to find a good way to start consolidating our data, because then I can move towards something I've been wanting to put together for a long time, and it's going to take a lift from everybody on the team. Is I want to produce a dashboard. I want our chapter managers and our contractors to be able to go to our website and just be able to access basically all the data we have. Do you want to see the market share trends for a year? Click here, click here. What are the average wage rates for your area? What are the average settlements? What are, some common contract terms? Start making all of those systems talk together and really put forth a good report. So yeah, I want to see us get all of our data in one place. It's one of those where I don't particularly know what I'm looking for. I have general ideas, but once I get in and have it all in one spot and I'm able to manipulate it, the stuff that we'll be able to produce will be amazing, and the dashboard will be the way of being able to put it in front of our managers, in front of our members. So I'd like to get that done. I'm actively working towards it now, and hope to have some proof of concept here relatively soon. So that's what I've got going on. John, what are you looking for?
Yeah, so I got to just echo everything you said, Ryan. Data is huge. I think it's super important for making decisions, right? You can go with gut feelings, you can go with intuition, and that's fine, but data tells a story and data drives the boat in the right direction, so you don't crash. So anything we can do to collect more data, to use data to make decisions, to build that interactive dashboard, I think is super important for us going forward, and I'm 100% on board with that. Another goal, though, would be I want to continue to empower chapters and members through the resources that we create to allow them to make informed decisions. I remember being a chapter manager and I would have a question on something, and my first thought was, well, let me look it up. Maybe there's somebody who's put out a resource that I can read to get some better understanding of this, or I can use when I'm talking to my IBW counterparts, and sometimes it wouldn't exist. And so, I play a lot of phone tag with people and say, hey, I have a question about XYZ. Can you give me some information? And well, I need to go do my own research and then I'll get back to you, John. So creating those resources for our members and chapters to be able to make informed decisions the first time is super important to me. So that's definitely high on my priority list. And I wouldn't call this necessarily a goal, but any feedback that chapters that members have, I think we do want to solicit as a team and say, hey, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What do you want to see done differently? So that would be, although not a goal, something that I want to remind the listeners that we're always open to feedback. Doesn't mean we're always going to implement the things you want to see, but the more feedback we can get, the more tailored we can get in the things that we do put out. So any ideas that people have, I'm more than happy to listen to. So those would be my goals: data, empowering the chapters, and getting feedback from them as well.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Ian, what's on the horizon?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to add anything that hasn't really been said, but at the end of the day, we have a lot of really intelligent folks working for NECA. We have a lot of really intelligent folks working for our labor partners at the IBW, and a lot of just really good humans. So if we can work from the labor relations end to bring that, good and good together and raise the floor of what a labor relations environment looks like at every level across the NECA IBW space, that's the goal. I know that's not as tangible as some, but I think in the long run, that's the direction we need to be working, shortening development time for people in new roles that are labor relations related, and then also creating a new standard for communications, transparency, and just bringing people with us, not pushing them along. I think we all have to do this together as a team, and until we accomplish that, we're not going to see the end result of raising that floor that we're all looking for.
Mutual trust is what I'm hearing in that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like it. I like it. Steve, what are you looking at getting done?
I think the biggest thing that I would like to it's an ongoing goal with the field staff is, we have 4 regions and 4 great regional directors, great field reps out in those regions. And they all have great thought process, great ideas, and sharing those resources among the different regions, making sure that if the southern region is something positive happening for them that they're doing, that they've had success with, making sure that we're communicating that and hopefully through the team's process of that resource so other regions can possibly develop that and try it. Also sharing what hasn't been a success, what have been some, not so much failures, but just didn't work out, and why didn't it work out? But it might work out, from the eastern region to the western region. So, we had 4 silos, but breaking down those 4 silos, communicating better, and then that communication helps us in this team right here, Labor Relations Team, how we can better serve them and the end game to our NECA member.
Awesome. Yeah, I like it. Just improving communications. I was going to mention this earlier when we were talking about our day-to-day, but we all get calls. We get, these issues elevated to us, and there always seems to be a common thread. For areas that aren't connected at all, if something can come out of the eastern region And then it seems like a few hours later, or maybe the first thing the next day, we're getting almost the exact same thing in the Western region. And we're pretty sure there was no way they were talking, but it just seems to be this common thread. So Steve's goal there of really connecting the regions, connecting the field team is definitely a great one, because it will allow them to collaborate more to, like Ian said, improve the response time. So, Jeff, what are you looking at? What do you want to do?
So I'm going to cheat. I've got two things. One is specific and the other is a little more general. I'll start with the specific. And one of my goals for both the short and the long term is to make CIR, Council on Industrial Relations, the best possible interest arbitration vehicle that we can. And I think because one of the primary returns on investment that you get as a NECA member is CIR. Interest arbitration versus, and I'm saying this as a litigator, interest arbitration versus a federal court lawsuit, an NLRB charge, outside arbitration with some arbitrator that you don't know, and you don't whose side he or she is on. If we can continue to protect CIR, make it the best CIR that we can, I think that's a goal. And you guys, are already off to a great start in taking it over fully. But we need to continue to work on that, and we need to continue to educate folks on what CIR is and what it isn't, and what it should be used for and what it shouldn't be used for. But that's a goal of mine. Generally, I will say that, Ryan, you touched on this earlier. I want to continue to evolve this team so that folks don't look at us just as putting out fires, but that we're working toward developing the industry from a labor perspective. And so, when I look at national agreements and negotiations with the IBW International on issues like portability and prefabrication and ratios, all of those things that will touch all of our members eventually, I want to make sure that this team is positioned to weigh in to benefit the members and to benefit the industry and continue to move this organization forward. If we get caught up in just responding to emails and calls and things that are happening, then we're not going to be as effective as we need to be. And I'll give you an example. You can have a strike in an area, right? And you've got to deal with the strike, and you've got to try to get those folks back to work and to negotiate the contract, and that's good. But why did the strike happen in our world? It's because they have modified CIR in their agreement, right? So how can we work to solve that within the framework of what we have? And that is to try to get modified CIR out of that agreement, right? So, that's sort of the next level of analysis. It's not just deal with the strike and move on. It is, how can we avoid strikes? And how can we avoid losing big clients because they're tired of strikes? Well, that's our team. And we need to try to move to that next level and be proactive and come up with solutions that work, that keep us out of those scrapes. So that's a goal for me, is to make sure that this team is proactive and serves the members and the industry like our mission says we should be doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. I got to back up for a second here. And Steve, Ian, John, I think we all failed a little bit. Our attorney had to remind us to set goals for CIR. Come on, guys. How did we miss the mark there?
I'll do better next time.
So, but yeah. We'll on round 2 later. No, but Jeff's very much spot on there. CIR is a very, very big part of our industry, and it's definitely a shining example that other trades and other trade associations should look to. I mean, it's been around for over 100 years now, and being one of the data and numbers guy, that's almost 9,000 cases have come before the council. So That's 9,000 strikes, 9,000 lockouts that didn't happen. So we need to build on what's there, and as Jeff said, make it the premier or the premier body in our industry, the premier way of dealing with disputes. Don't take that as I'm saying everybody should come CIR. Being very clear, we do want you settling locally, but if CIR does have to be used, we want to make sure that that we are handling issues properly and that we are issuing decisions that move the industry forward. So, thank you. Well, those are all some great goals. We'll have to check in a year from now and see how we're doing, see where we are. Now that they're officially carved in stone, we've got all the listeners and viewers to keep us honest, which will be great. So we're going to start wrapping things up here. We're going to deviate from talking about our goals, talking about ourselves and what we do on the team. And what I want you guys to do is 5-10 seconds on if somebody had to remember one thing, one piece of advice from the labor relations perspective, what would that be? Like if you got 10 seconds on a phone call to be, hey, carry this with you, do this will save you so much time, so much trouble. So I'm going to kick this one to Ian.
All right, 10-second countdown. The IBW is our partner, not our opponent. NECA is NECA, and we all need to be on the same team. And don't take things personal. As personal as it may feel, don't take things personal when they happen. You're not happy with what they are.
Awesome. Well, if we just all do that, there's no need for anybody else to fill in. So great time, guys. Thank you for being here. Jeff, what do you want to tell people?
Yeah, along those same lines, collaborate and don't care who gets the credit, for something. If you've got an issue and you need some help, reach out and we'll give you our best advice. And, and then, who cares from a member perspective who came up with an idea? Just make sure you're communicating the right answer.
Yeah. Steve?
Building those relationships, and it mainly starts with that IBW, but you have to build those relationships, and Ian touched on it, and Jeff, we're not going to see eye to eye. It's not how we agree, but it's how we disagree, and at the end of the day, they are still our partner. We're going to move this industry forward. We have to some way come to a agreement resolution to with the IBW and build that trust level with them so we can have some good decisions that keeps the industry strong.
Awesome. Thank you. John?
In the wise worlds of Bill and Ted, be excellent to one another, have empathy for the people you work with, and attack problems, not people.
You guys were all on the vein of relationship building and building that trust, building the ability to work together with our partners, with our other folks in NECA, with our contractor members. That's great. You're going to get issues solved. You're going to get things resolved. I'm going to be the stickler here and come in and say, don't miss the small stuff, though. Don't forget about the signing the right paperwork, putting the right stuff in writing, sign your minutes, come up with a settlement agreement. It's all the fundamental base stuff, but please just get your documentation in order. Make sure it's all as accurate and as correct as it can be. I can't stress that enough. Guys, thank you so much. You've both taken a good bit of time out of your day to be here and record this. I can't be more appreciative of your willingness to be on and share your insights, share what you do on a day-to-day basis, talk about where you want to go and also where you came from. So thank you. Looking forward to a lot of more great episodes of Labored Thoughts. This won't be the last time you see everybody on this call. We all have our own areas of expertise, and I fully plan to use and abuse those for content. So thank you guys very much. And to everybody listening and watching, really appreciate you. If you ever have any questions or any ideas, anything you want us to cover, feel free to send it in and we'll be happy to jump on it. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.